There's Aaron, he's here. He's also late.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good. So that's everybody except those who weren't going to come.
I don't have any, but I could put, if he could turn this screen on, then I can show you.
Hey, Aaron.
Aaron, we're going to say the same thing to you that we just said to Freda.
The Pledge of Allegiance?
Not yet. we are public meetings, so we do have to start at 3. If we don't have a quorum by 5 after, we're going to call it from now on. We didn't have a quorum at 5 after, but just so you know, just we're trying to stay proper for the public.
Got it.
Thank you. Okay, we can get started.
Okay, so I'm calling the August meeting of the Erie Environmental Advisory Council to order. So we have the roll call. John Campbell.
Here.
Bob Howden.
Here.
Aaron Kerr. Here. Sister Pat and Sherry Mason both are excused. Matt Puz. And myself, Freda Tepfer. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the July minutes unless there are any comments about the minutes? Any additions or anything?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Public comment. Do we have any public comment from people present?
Can everyone hear me? Oh, it's so uncomfortable when this mic goes up. There were 2 things that I wanted to speak about that are on your agenda for today.
Introduce yourself.
I am Jenny Tompkins, Penn Future Clean Water Campaign Manager. Thanks. I wanted to point out that Liz Allen had written an op-ed in the Erie Times News that was published yesterday on Go Erie, and it highlighted that City Councilwoman Kathy Schaaf was responsible for the water refill stations that are in Perry Square. So I thought I'd recommend that you all connect with her because she'd be a great ally for the single-use plastics work that you discussed at your last meeting, including finding ways to reduce water bottle use at events. So just wanted to highlight that that was cited in that article. I hadn't known her connection to that advocacy before. The second element of this is the Marcellus Shale Coalition, which is coming up September 24th through the 26th. It came to my attention that that conference is being held in Erie for a second year in a row after being pushed out of Pittsburgh by a lot of diligent advocates. I have done quite a few primer talking points on the Marcellus Shale Coalition and the impacts of hydrofracking and unconventional oil and gas in Pennsylvania. I don't need to go into all of the specifics today, but I did want to let you know that after some advocacy, Mayor Schember, who's with us today, agreed not to speak at or attend that conference in support of all the climate resilience and greenhouse gas mitigation work that's gone on in the city over the last few years. Might be a great opportunity for the EAC to thank Mayor Schember for that opportunity and maybe express why holding that conference in Erie may be a concern to the folks who are advocating and advising on climate action. I also would recommend that you let Councilwoman Jasmine Flores as your liaison know about that development and that the conference is coming to town, and it may also be an opportunity to engage City Council in committing to the work that you all are doing and acknowledging that progress. I think that's it. I have to head out for an event in just a little bit, but I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that how that work was connected. Some of the advocacy I've been doing is connected to your prior meetings. All right, thanks.
Okay. Is there anybody, do we have anybody on this? We don't have Zoom today, right, Jackie? No. Okay. So so I see a couple people in the audience. Do any of you have any comments to add?
I'm fine.
Well, this is it.
I'm here to answer any questions.
Oh, is that Dave?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for coming.
Well, you're quite welcome.
I didn't recognize you.
Sometimes I don't recognize myself.
Okay, well, great, okay. So, old business. All right, I will start the report on the meetings with various government groups by confessing that I have yet to do mine, but I will commit to doing them in September. I think I think that there will be, I think I have more things to kind of in my head about the things with the climate action and the Marcellus Shale and whatever that would be suitable to talk about with the MTA and City Council. Nevertheless, I haven't done it yet. Has anybody else done theirs?
I reached out to Jake Welsh with the zoning office to set up the time I can go in front of the planning commission. It will be not this month, September, the September planning commission. And I'll just present about our group and probably tie it in with my planning background, but it's kind of my
Do
plan.
they just meet once a month or do they have two?
Once a month. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
I have a question, since I was not at the meeting last month. Sam had said something about doing some talking points for us to...
She did, actually, I brought that up and she said, oh, I sent them to you months ago, which I don't know when she sent it to us, but
Did we get them? I don't remember getting them.
They
I'll
were
have to look.
provided as a handout at the last meeting.
I I missed
I
the
may
last
have,
meeting.
do you have access to them? Because I think I saved them if you don't. But
I can email Sam and ask her to email them to me. Do you have
I can
them?
send them to you.
Do you
again.
have them, Jackie?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll send them to you again. They weren't as,
meaty.
yeah, that's a good word. They weren't as meaty as what I thought they were going to be.
Okay.
So maybe we can work on that a little bit and ask Sam, and I can do it also as well.
Okay.
To add a little bit more content to it so that you have more of a framework. I'll send them to you, and then, if you feel that you're comfortable with that, that's fine. Otherwise, we can add to that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, sure. Yes, I'll send
I
them.
know I have them.
It was that, but also us and the EAC in general. It's like, hey, we're here, this is what we do, but I think there was kind of,
Because I can add information about the local climate action plan if you need more.
I'll send them to you, Sarah, too, and maybe you can add a little bit more to it. It was what is the EAC? What is the response? What is the intent of the EAC? Why are we here? What are we doing? And then information, like Fred has said, around the local climate action plan, and as that which is what our priority is. And then if we wanted to discuss some of the secondary priorities, we could do that too. It's really awareness around the local climate action plan.
Okay, I'll go over it.
Sure, I'll send it to you.
okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
I met with Craig Palmer of Waterworks and had a very productive and encouraging meeting with Waterworks, and I think they're eager to learn more about the climate action plan, and I think they would even be happy to come to one of our meetings.
Right. You didn't go to their board meeting, you just talked to him?
No, I was directed to talk to him because he's the CEO, and
Right.
the head of the board said that he's the go-to person for us to coordinate with.
The reason why I like to go to boards is sometimes boards may pick up on things that the CEO doesn't always pick up on, and the board can kind of prod the CEO in that direction. Just saying. That's my personal thing, but, and Aaron's smiling.
No, because I deal with the board all the time. It's not always fun.
Okay, so that's great that you did that. Yeah, I've talked to them quite a bit in conjunction with the plantings work, and we did talk about the water bottle thing. How about, so I guess you're not there yet? Or-
No, because I was waiting to find out about the talking points, plus the fact that I also have a conflict at the time that I'm supposed to be doing the Historical Review Commission, and they meet on Monday mornings and I work on Monday mornings, so we're going to have to figure out something around that.
I haven't yet, but I'm planning to, like you, in September.
It's going to be wonderful.
September's right around the corner.
12:30.
Yeah.
Could be a little tight.
Thank you.
Well, I know the EMTA meets at the end of the month, and the city council has 2 meetings, and I don't usually make the morning meetings, we'll see. Anyway, okay, well, that's good to know. I'm not sure what Pat and Sam have done, if they have done anything, but we'll hear from them. So on C, is there a presentation, or are we going to have a discussion, Jackie?
Are you referencing B? B?
B,
Local
yeah.
Climate Action Program? No, I was going to give you a quick update with possibly Mike Campbell. I'm sorry for sitting back here, but I'm keeping
That's
the
okay.
computer. About an hour ago, Mike and I sat with the 2 students that are part of the program, and Peter Buck, I believe it was Peter Buck. He is the program lead from Penn State Local Climate Action Program. And we were introduced to the students that are going to be working on this project.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter gave us a schedule. Gave us a schedule as to what the students will be doing in the first couple weeks, which is really acclimating them to all of the policy and historical background going way back with climate change, really giving them a good foundation. And then from there, they're going to start pulling the data, working with us, and let me back up for a moment. The normal schedule would be November, late November, early December timeframe that the inventory would be complete and presented to the city, or to the EAC actually first. We brought up the fact that we already have an inventory and that there was a potential to tailor this project a little bit so that we could be a bit more aggressive and start working on the planning component of the project faster. He was very open to that and remembered talking to me about that earlier on. And he said that he was going to speak with the students and talk with his team and see if we can potentially have the inventory complete by October, so that we can move into the planning phase of the LCAP and start really working on our priorities and developing and moving forward in a much quicker pace. So to be determined, but at this point we are in the program. They are going to be contacting me to set up some times to, I think, weekly meetings. You know, the students are learning accountability and meeting and all of that good stuff. I was going to ask the EAC, I know that we can't have everyone on these calls, but I think that we should, for those that are interested in being a little bit more intimately involved in this project, I think we should have a committee that's, you know, maybe participating in these weekly or bi-weekly, however we set it up, meetings. So,
Is Mike?
I'm interested.
I don't know if we should take a vote at this moment because we don't have everybody here present. I don't need a vote necessarily, but I could send out an email asking who's interested in it. And then we can certainly have like a small committee that's, I don't want to call it, everyone in the EAC is going to be involved, but I don't think everyone needs to be at every single meeting.
I think Sam's already on some other advisory board related to this, so maybe she could. Personally, I think we should have more different people involved in this part.
I'm just throwing this out here.
Did you say Mike was with you?
Mike, I invited Mike to come to come to this meeting today. I wanted a few people there, and Mike was able to. And actually, I think, Mike, you're a really great fit because you've done this model at Mercyhurst.
Sure.
And so you're so familiar after your introduction to the students that I would be happy to have you on board.
Count me in. I'm
Okay.
happy to continue.
We might just need Mike to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, Mike. I mean, if we just.
And he could reach out to us if he has.
And that might be better to only have maybe one person right now, and then we can pull in the EAC at different touch points along the way. If that's what you would prefer, that's
Well,
fine.
I just think, and then if we want to, if you send out that email, if we want to, we can join you.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think Mike being part of it is a good start at least.
I had some, did you look like you had a question, or you're just?
No, I didn't.
Clicking? So there's a document that was in the stuff you sent us on Monday, and it's the City of Erie GHG Emissions Inventory by Johnston and Edward Smith. So have we seen that before, or is that new? Because there was a lot of stuff about transportation, and I don't know if I remembered seeing that before.
So was it the final document?
It was in the packet that you sent us.
It was the final document that the first project of the LCAP that they prepared.
Okay.
That, as far as I know, and Sarah, you had not seen that before. That was their final report.
Okay, so the reason why I want to mention that is because, and with Mike here, so transportation was not inventoried, was that right, in the original, that there?
As far as I know, we never got the national fuel inventory, and we never got the rail. Thank you.
Right.
Rail.
So does the greenhouse gas inventory around transportation address industrial or single, it does, okay. So where I was going is, having looked at that and having looked at some of the graphs and charts, we have, for example, a proposal further along than a proposal, but there is a project underway in Erie that proposes to bring vehicles in from 450 miles away and then to move them to Indiana afterwards. And that's an example to me of where I would like to see some kind of modeling of what something like that does in terms of greenhouse gas. Because, that's a real thing. It's out there. People have talked about it. It's not like imaginary.
If I may, if you're asking, do the students, if there's something speculative out there?
It's not speculative. I mean, the Department of Energy is proposing to loan them $182 million, but I'm saying that project doesn't have to be that specific project, but there is a project of that magnitude of vehicles coming into and leaving the city, and how that could impact greenhouse gases, that we have an example, it could be modeled.
In working with the students the first time, they gathered existing data. So even though we did the project in 2023, we were gathering 2019 data. So that's one reason that we still started with the data first, to update it, but not just to get what's missing. So I don't know if the students have it in their ability within 2 months to gather data on a project that hasn't happened yet. They're gathering baseline data that already exists, so that the city can develop a local climate action plan, which has our priorities of concerns for the city and our environmental goals and sustainability goals and climate resiliency goals, and we can enact policy. We're not at the point where we can set up specific projects yet. We're trying to create an overall plan of guidance of policy and direction of priorities for the city at this level right now. We're still at the very beginning phases of developing a plan And then future projects will be identified as we move farther along.
Well, this isn't a project, I can't
Freda,
imagine.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want you to understand from what I heard, and Mike, please chime in. They have a model that they use to gather the greenhouse gas inventory.
And that's all we get?
It's a model. I don't know what that model looks like, but they have their methodology already in place, and I'm not sure that we're going to be able in 2 months and with students to be able to have outliers or projections or that kind of. I think they're getting a baseline, like Sarah says, baseline information. Now, Mike, you've worked on this kind of thing before, so
Yeah.
I defer to you.
What I will do to address your concern, which I think is an important one, is inquire as to the extent to which they evaluate transportation by various sectors in the community, industry, personal vehicles, rail, commercial transportation, and encourage them to break it down so that we can see the relative importance of transport emissions in the various sectors. My shoot from the hip guess is those hundreds of thousands of automobiles with single drivers on the road 3, 4, 5 times a day are going to be a larger source of emissions than trucks for one industry. But we need data in order to answer that question.
Right.
And I'll ask them to,
Right.
if they can, to include that so that we could evaluate its possible importance.
The other thing in terms of transportation was to evaluate, this is why I'm concerned that all we get is what they already have in terms of their model. I mean, we're building a climate action plan based on a model that is off the shelf. And plus you want to accelerate their time frame. Is this not important enough for us to be doing this in a way that's more tailored or more sophisticated, I guess? But the other thing that I brought up in the past was to have somehow to model, and I keep throwing out the term model because I don't do it. I just know the people who do modeling, they can model almost anything. But to model what is the change in residential contribution to pollution if we have a robust public transit system, one that has an increased density of service and an increased frequency of service such that people actually want to use it. And I don't hear that that's being done or looked at either by EMTA or this entity. I mean, I think it's great that we're using this resource, but it seems like it's kind of a Chevrolet when maybe we need an Oldsmobile.
But we don't know what we need. That's the point of writing a baseline plan. We don't have any plan in place. We don't have policies. And so that's why we're doing all this background work so that we can develop them. And then we can decide moving forward what we feel would be best for our city and try to make better decisions. You have to do the background work to be able to make your decisions.
So is this project that they're doing, is this the plan, or do we get to go get a grant to get them?
They're doing the greenhouse gas inventory data, and then we have to develop a plan. It's a process. It'll probably take 2 years to develop a plan. That's why Jackie's hoping we can get started a little sooner. Maybe we can do it in 6 months because we have been working on it for a whole year already.
Well, and there's a lot of people, including Mike and others, who have a lot of data already, and we need the action. We have plenty of data. We need the action.
It needs compiled.
It needs to. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying, emphasis on action, climate action, down the road, but we need action.
It's a plan for action.
Right.
It's an action plan. So we still have to have the plan part and then do the action.
Yeah.
And just to note, even if we don't have a plan in place, the EAC can still move forward with whatever priorities they would like to see happen.
Exactly.
Just because we don't have the local climate action plan and this board sets forth certain actions, that is certainly your decision.
There were certain funding opportunities that maybe, they were just too short turnaround for us to respond to, I think, with what we had, but it would be nice if, so you're saying even if we don't have the plan, we can still look at some of those funding opportunities? The
Well,
grants and stuff?
no, I'm saying that it's not about funding, but I guess you could bring that in as well. I'm saying that even if you don't have a plan complete, the Environmental Advisory Council can put into action certain things that they feel are priority.
And you can always request the city to look at specific funding opportunities if you become aware of any. I mean, you can forward them to Jackie, she can send them to the public works folks or herself, or, the city has to agree, all the administration, which funding sources we are going to go after. But you can always bring funding opportunities to their attention with ideas.
Right. Some of the ones I became aware of were such short turnaround.
One of the things that Peter Buck from Penn State mentioned is that during this 3-week foundational part that the students go through, they read the Paris Agreement, they read through, he's mentioned, I don't know, at least 10 local, national, and international policies, more, I guess, local or state and national policies to make sure that the students understand and are able to align with those priorities so that when they write their final document or report, that is intentional for funding, to be able to align Erie with those national priorities. So he did speak to that. And that could happen before LCAP is done. They're vetting through those and aligning Erie for that.
I'll just add, and correct me if I didn't get this accurate, but I guess there is a plan they penciled in to come to our November meeting. The students will give a report on their greenhouse gas inventory to the EAC.
Yes, Mike, that was penciled in November 27th.
Right.
That was only if they were not going to be able to do the aggressive schedule.
Okay.
The October, he mentioned October, as a potential date, that if they were able to do the more aggressive schedule, they could come in the October meeting, but typically it would be around November. And our December meeting happens to fall on the 25th, so we'll have to determine whether we're going to cancel that meeting or reschedule it for another time in December.
So then 27th, looks like it's the day before Thanksgiving?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that's the day before Thanksgiving.
So does the city close early that day, or? No.
I think we're closed Thursday and Friday.
No, this is the Wednesday before.
Yeah, no.
And are they coming to the meeting virtually?
Well, one of the students is actually from Erie, and he's a senior. The other one lives in Penn State, Maine, and then there's, or in what is it, Happy Valley? State College, sorry. I can't remember.
It's all the same, yeah. Okay,
I'm a Pitt grad.
Just wanted to bring up that was the day before Thanksgiving. I don't go anywhere, so it doesn't affect me, but.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We should probably take a look at that and let them know, yeah.
Okay, all right.
First we'll find out if the aggressive schedule is doable. He said he would get back to us and let us know.
Okay, so what they're working on primarily at this point is finishing up the greenhouse gas inventory.
First,
Okay.
the foundational part of their project, and then they're gonna move into
Okay.
the data collection.
Okay,
Yes.
that wasn't clear
Yes.
to me, yeah. Is there anything else about this item B on the agenda?
I just would want to add that Peter Buck, who is the professor at Penn State, who is overseeing this and coordinating it, has a great deal of experience writing these things, and he and Brandy are going to both be, working with the students to edit and correct, and so I think we're going to have an excellent product. And in terms of it not being everything, the Oldsmobile, a bird in the hand is worth 25 in the bush. They're doing it, and we're not paying $1 million for it. So I think we should be happy we have this opportunity to have Penn State University provide this for us.
Okay, so we have the EAC Network Fall Gathering. Do you have any specific thing you wanted to discuss? So this is a one-day event in the Chester County?
Philadelphia.
Temple, anyway, it's way over there on the other side of the state. It's a one-day event. I think it's $75 or $95 if you wait to register. If we, the city, is a member of We Can Serve, we could get a $10 break on the individual registrations. My question is there any support for A, attendance, and B, travel expenses for this? Is there any potential for support? You said something earlier that there might be some.
I don't think there's support for travel, for travel expenses. We could always apply for some sort of grant for next year if you want to, have more trainings. But at this moment, I'm not aware of anything in my budget.
All right, how about for registration? Could we cover, who else besides me might even consider going? Just the thought of driving all that way makes me exhausted, but.
Especially for one day. If it was
It's a
like a
one-day.
3-day conference,
Yeah.
I
I
could
know.
understand, but for one day.
It's November something, I think. Was it November?
October 5th.
October 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah, better than November.
I would think that if it's a one-day conference, it probably starts fairly early in the morning, in which case you'd have to go the night before.
That's right. And you couldn't get home that night either.
Right, and exactly. Unless you're going to plan on getting home at 2 o'clock in the morning or something like
No,
that.
I don't do
So
that anymore.
I think it's, because of where it's located, it's kind of impractical.
So there's no virtual participation
No,
option?
they had one of those already.
Okay.
They had one in the spring, or
Mhm.
I participated in some of the virtual one. So is there anybody else who's even thinking about it? I know,
After
there's
the-
one session that I'd like really love to.
Well, I think we should look at the content and really get a sense of what this network does and how we could benefit from connecting with it in the future, for sure. And I think we should look over the speakers and maybe do a little research on them and what kinds of curriculum they're putting forth and how to strengthen your network and strengthen the EAC here in Erie. We can find out some things just by being online, perhaps.
If we see something on the agenda that strikes our fancy, I'm wondering whether we could get PowerPoints or copies
Yeah.
or whatever they're doing that we could look at rather than having to attend. Because I'm sure if they're having speakers that we're interested, those speakers are probably going to have PowerPoint presentations.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
want to
no.
explore that with her or the person, or should I do that? The person that We Can Serve? Whether that's, I'm looking at Jackie, whether that's a possibility.
Is,
To obtain the presentations,
Yeah.
Well, I was just suggesting that if we saw something on the agenda that we thought could be helpful to us,
Yeah.
maybe we can obtain the presentation from that
Sure.
particular program.
I would say if you want to look into that, Freda, that'd be great.
Okay. I have kind
I
of-
would hope that they would be at least apt to sharing some information with us, since we are all the way on the other side of Pennsylvania, and it's far for us. I mean, it'd be different if it was in the middle of the state, but it's an 8-hour drive.
Right.
Right.
So-
So I will repeat though, if I do decide to go, is there potential for me to get help deferring the cost of the registration?
The answer is no, not at this time, unless we become a member of We Can Serve PA.
I can look for it and I'll see if I can find anything.
Because, well, I'd have to
If
register,
you want to go for sure, just,
I have to register, I think, by the 13th, if I go. Well, there's a couple, it's not just the presentations, it's the networking opportunity.
right, I think it's important, and if you go, that would be great for us, but.
Yeah, it's just a heck of a trip.
Yeah.
Plus you have to deal with the Schuylkill Expressway.
I don't know anything about that. I've only been, I think I was in Philadelphia once for
God.
an afternoon many, many, many years ago.
Philadelphia is where I learned how to swear, listening to my father driving on the Schuylkill Expressway.
It's easier to get to New York City or Washington DC than Philadelphia. Anyway, okay, moving right along, because we have a guest. Secondary priority single-use plastics and litter mitigation. So, go ahead. So, hi Dave. One of the things that we have talked about is the amount of single-use plastic generated by events, both, and I know the city, it's hard to tell who sponsors what, because like Celebrate Erie seems to have their own entity, and then the Downtown Partnership does some of the events. I don't know who does Rib Fest. And I see our bandstands all over the county.
That is correct.
That is correct. So, we've been talking about how to reduce single-use plastics, the contribution to single-use plastics at events. And apparently the port has now, at Liberty Park, 3 water bottle filling stations. Which is pretty good for 8 Great Tuesdays. They don't leave them up all winter. I think the one we have in the park can survive the winter. But, one of the things that I had talked about with the Downtown Partnership when they did their study was if we could have some vest pocket parks. If we did, we could have water bottle filling stations around downtown. But I know you had some concerns about, people have said, well, people generate income by selling water, but we're trying to reduce that waste stream. Anyway, do you want?
I don't think anybody could challenge the concerns that you have. The problem, and we've tried it a couple of times, and the problem we've always run into is enforcement. There's just no way you can enforce it with the manpower available to the city. The food truck people are very smart people. They're street smart. It's a different kind of smart. And they don't like being told what to do. I would rather educate them so they voluntarily did it. But we get a lot of people that come in from other sections of the county that may not necessarily have, I know they have licenses, but they don't get permitted. If somebody's going to come in and do a one-day event for the all-timers, I'm not going to charge them the $200 and give them a permit because they won't come. Because if it rains, they won't even make the $200 to pay me. And I know that. So I don't want to interfere with the event. Now, we have about 15 to 25 food trucks here. To find out what food truck has recyclable materials one day and then they don't the next day. It was very challenging. We had Zabagua. If we had the city bandwagon. Now we could tell them that we want all their people to have recyclable containers if they put pierogies in or pigs in the blanket in, or we're not going to give them the bandwagon. I suppose you could do that, but who's going to enforce it? Who's going to go up there and check it? Who's going to go up there Friday from 5 to midnight and Saturday from 10 to 10? You can't do it. Now, one of the suggestions I brought up, because I just don't like saying no without alternatives. I love alternatives. I had always thought that perhaps if you wanted food truck people, like the bottled water, the plastic containers, if you get 2 hot dogs and fries, make biodegradable. Maybe we should target the health department. Because the health department gives them their health license. The health department has inspectors, and they go to every event. Before all the food trucks operated during Celebrate Erie and during the Rib Fest, the health department inspected each of them, made sure they had hand washing sinks, made sure they had pump soap, made sure they had paper towels. I don't see any reason why they can't make sure they have biodegradable condiments, materials in the truck as well. This way, instead of just targeting the city, when the city gets inundated by outside vendors coming in for the Jazz and Blues Festival and for others, they would be under the same restraints as the city people. So by going to the health department, you may be able to tackle everything all in one neat bundle.
But that's not something they have any jurisdiction over.
We talked about that, and we were wondering, well, they wouldn't see single-use plastic, for example, as a human health threat, but it's certainly a human health threat and a threat to the environmental health.
Then let them go on the books by denying your request.
I don't see, I don't believe that the people that regulate the county health department at the highest levels would support something like that. I don't think it's appropriate to ask people to go outside their mission. But there's two different things. There's the food containers and there's the water bottles. So for 7 years, I've been talking about water bottle filling stations. I was at an event, a major folk festival in Newport, Rhode Island, where they had those. They had like 5 of those, and you could fill 5 water bottles at each one. And they were distributed around the festival. I don't know whether you could buy water in a plastic bottle anywhere, but I think that's the waste stream that would be easiest to tackle. And I know that Sam Mason has a scheme she wants to work on with food containers. She's focused on food trucks and restaurants, but I'm more interested personally, and I don't represent everybody on here, but I'm interested in the water bottles because I think it's doable.
Anything is possible. They just come with different degrees of difficulty. But you're right, everything is possible.
I don't, we're doing people a favor. Do they pay to use the bandstand?
They do.
Well, that's good to know.
Oh, I charge them heavily.
Okay, because I saw it at the Greek festival too.
They pay. St. Paul's pays. Zabagua pays. Erie County Fair pays. Wine Festival pays. They all pay.
Right.
But, I mean, again, I don't challenge your thoughts. I agree with you. It's just extremely difficult to enforce it, especially the containers. Because and I know you're dealing with, I don't know if you want to kick it.
I don't know how to make it go away, but.
If you're dealing with the containers, one of the problems that we had was the stack of containers we want to use in the city costs $55 a stack. The stack that you can use at Dan Rice Days costs $15 a stack.
Have you looked into the state purchasing? The state purchasing system, STARS I think it's called, does have a food containers in it.
I have never looked into that.
Okay, well, you might check in.
Because my first obligation is the events. You know, we do 200 to 250 events in a 3-4 month period. Right now, I probably have 5 or 6 phone calls from St. Pat's Festival wanting to know where their permit is. People are tenacious. But I still do all the food trucks, and I try to do my due diligence, and I'll do whatever I can to help you. I just ran into all different kind of difficulties. I remember a big promoter of recycling, John Vanko. I get a phone call from Lincoln Metal. Howard's dead now. Calls me up, says, Dave, what's going on? I said, Howard, what's the problem? He says, Jazz and Blues Festival. I said, okay. I went down and I picked up all the aluminum cans. They're contaminated. I says, what do you mean? He says, well, we had to make a point, so we took them out of the dumpster and we just put them on the ground. And I just wanted to let you know. And I would tell John, the minute there's one beer bottle and a big can, it's contaminated. They won't take it. And it's the education of the people. Because the people go by, they got a beer bottle, and they just throw it in, no matter how many times. I used to send recyclable containers to Zabagua. And then I used to give them big, big, big black bags because the beer bottles were mixed in with the cans, and it was so heavy they couldn't pick them up. And then it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It was the education.
Yeah.
And then I said, Howard, look, I says, what do we do with these cans? He said, Dave, I'm not worried about the can, but if one of the bottles gets mixed up into my crusher, I lose a $250,000 piece of equipment because there's a bottle in it. So I'm not taking it. So I told John, I says, John, we'll bring you the bins down, but I don't think recycling is going to work unless you have a person stationed at every recycling state and say, nope, don't put the bologna sandwiches in here, don't put the beer bottles in here. I mean, people are having a good time. Some don't care. I happen to care. You know, I recycled all the time. I had a bar in Mill Creek, and we had to do that constantly. Paper, trash, cardboard, metal, did it all the time. But other people, they just don't seem to care. So I'd have to go there, and I'd have to go to Frontier, and I'd have to take those cans, and I'd have to put them in the garbage bin because Vanco wouldn't do it. And I got stung a couple of times, and I said that was enough.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering about your health department comment. I don't know why we can't look into that.
You know, she may be right. It may not be possible.
I just can't imagine Brenton Davis would just make hay out of that.
Right. Maybe don't talk to.
I mean, it wasn't just because it's him. Anybody would say, you can't tell us we have to do this.
Okay, but I think it's a cross-sectional issue, and I've been in the city all summer with kids cleaning up litter, and it's incredible.
It's horrible.
Yeah, and so the city needs to get a strategy that is integrated from different areas, including the schools, the county, the city, and be on the same page. So I think the more you consistently connect different institutions and social groups, the better success you'll have. But and adjacent to that or concurrent with that would be Freda's question about having stations, where you fill up your bottle and you don't buy a plastic bottle. You don't get a plastic container at Country Fair or Sheetz or Dollar General either. So, yeah.
I mean, I agree. It would not be that challenging to tell the Rib Festival that they couldn't sell. Then they would say, well, what about Diet Pepsi? Well, I know. So you'd have to have the proper answers for them.
This is the thing I'm talking. What I think is, with all the know-how we have in the area of people fabricating and manufacturing, somebody in here could cook these up here. But one of the issues is how many parks have water fountains in them to begin with? None.
Not all.
Freda, are you asking that we,
think,
Is that a possibility?
I think
Well,
we should
I mean, I think, yeah, right now we don't even have that.
work every angle, and I think Craig Palmer had mentioned interest in,
I know, I talked to him, but that's all he has is interest. He's had interest for 7 years.
well, yeah, but I mean, he's now CEO.
Right.
I mean, maybe something will move. So it's just getting all these pieces together and like being intentional and having a plan involving you, county, whatever,
Right.
all of us.
And if you knew, like, does anybody know how much they cost?
Well,
I mean, perhaps we could start searching for funding opportunities.
Yeah.
there's several, it depends, there's 2 ways you do it. You have one that attaches to city water, and you have one that you have to truck the water in. And there's several $1,000s.
I think you need to gather that data too, because you're just talking to us, so we're just talking back to you. But if you say, look, this is how much they cost, this is how many we would recommend having in an event in Perry Square,
Yep.
maybe we could just have one to loan, like, can the water authority own one? Are you asking the city to own it? Who's gonna own them? How much maintenance do they need? I mean, the city would need a lot more information to make the choice that we would actually get them and have them. Like, maybe we're not the right place to have them, maybe the water authority is.
But we are the ones who loan the bandstand. And as the ones who loan the bandstand, I believe that I don't work for the city, but I'm here, that we have some obligation to move the needle on this issue.
Well, then we need more information on the 2 different options, how much they cost, is there funding available? Like, if the committee could do some background research and then give that information to Public Works, it's something they could look into.
So we've been talking about this same topic for weeks now. We either need to do something about it, especially this water station, and Fred, it seems that you need to take the lead and have it on the agenda maybe for 1 or 2 more times, and then it needs to come off the agenda.
Right. Is there
Because
any,
we can't continue to flush out and talk about this. There are other things that we need to move forward with. So,
well, I'm glad we have Dave here.
Yeah,
We have
thank you
Dave.
for
no, but I
Wish I could be more helpful.
So, what do you propose to do for next time? Looking into cost estimates for the 2 types of watering stations. Let's start there, maybe.
Well, it would be nice to figure out how many.
Could we, you and I, draw up some sort of like a proposal to give advice to these entities,
Right.
and then follow through,
Right.
in
And I would
our,
also suggest that while I don't know whether they have a comment period deadline or what, but the Erie Downtown Partnership proposed this downtown plan, and they proposed beefing up Perry Square and Griswold, and then they wanted to do something down at the Bayfront. There is the alternative of doing some kind of vest pockets, But anyway, that maybe you and I will work on this.
We
and
could,
maybe we
yeah.
can look into whether there's anything that could be dovetailed into the plan that they're working on.
sure, or
Okay,
just
all right, so
provide
we'll work
advice.
on it.
We're the advisory council, so we're providing advice and like
Right.
following up and helping with the
But
best we
I would
can.
like to focus specifically on the water bottles, and because Sam seems to have something going with the food containers. And I don't want to get in the middle of that.
I'm all for it, because,
But
most
Fred,
of the
you
stuff
have
we
to
pick up
present
is.
data. You need to present data.
Well, that's, all right, okay, wait. So in line with the data request, I would like what do we know about the volume of participation in these events? How many people participate and celebrate? Well, you're looking at me.
There's no data for that.
We could figure it out. Get an
You
estimate.
have to use your estimate.
We'll do a model.
There's no any kind of collecting of any information on these events?
Crowd size?
Yeah.
We have our calculations based on certain parameters, but
Okay, well, that's something.
no, I mean, we could call St. Paul's and ask them how many people you have.
Yeah.
Now, he may tell you whatever the number divided by 2, you know, just like your golf game, what did you shoot? Divide it by 2, and you get the real, you know, or add the double it, I should say.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you
But-
have a list of all the events that
I have a list of every event I've done since 2007.
Okay, so you have a list of what events use the bandstand
I do.
annually? Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
can you
We
send
could-
it to me?
I could.
Okay, that'd be great.
That'd be good.
Right now, we have a bandwagon in the Erie County Fair, in Wattsburg. Now, who's going to go up there because they got the bandwagon? Who's going to go up there to make sure that their bottles are appropriate? That's the problem
Yeah.
that we have.
Right.
Again,
Because
it's-
you're dealing with so many entities coming in from so many, you know, and people are people, they're creatures of habit.
I'm not sure if you want to focus on where the bandwagons are going versus just events within city limits, Fred.
Well-
Because if you're
Well, he's the one who brought up
asking for water refill stations and the city to own those or some other entity, I mean, we can't force Wattsburg to have a water.
No, but
Well,
the
actually, one of the entities that I talked to the porta potty people. I said, have you ever thought about doing this along with what you do?
I
Somebody's,
think you need to flush out the plan and get more information.
right,
porta
but
potty.
that, I know, but they're always there.
Well, listen, I think that this is really good, I mean, because plastic litter is just terrible in this city, and we need to start addressing it somehow, and the more we collaborate, the more we'll understand. And I think asking for the bandstand people is good, because then you'll know who's accountable to the city's requirements, and then, not that we can weigh in, but we can at least start to have conversations.
Right, and I'm not saying you can't buy water, I'm saying you ought to have the option. Because I've been at things where I didn't have the option and I ran out, and I didn't want to buy water. Yeah.
I understand.
Well,
So the next big event we have with the bandwagon is the wine festival.
Oh,
There you go. So, you know, go in there and
they won't use plastic cups, will they?
Yeah, it's too bad, you know, like I said, it would be much easier if you could get people to partner with you, like the health department.
Yeah.
They could take care of your plates, your spoons, your forks, and your cups. I would just ask them, and if they say no, you got it on record. Now, maybe they will. Maybe they say we don't want to get involved.
well,
But-
maybe give them a cut of how much you get for the
But it might
bandstand.
surprise you. You know, they may say, let me think about it.
Right, I think
Maybe
to talk
we'll,
to somebody
you know,
there.
I don't think it hurts to talk.
Yeah.
No, and then when they do their inspections every day, when they do their inspections, they want to see their cups, they want to see this, they want to see that. That's not bio, you can't use that and you can't use this.
Well, according to Sherry, if you're not composting, it doesn't matter, because if you have a compostable container going into the landfill, it's still going to produce methane. So,
But it is made out of renewable waste, and plastic is not. A
But-
renewable resource,
okay.
plastic is not.
but
Yeah. So there's
that's why
degrees,
I'm focused on the water bottles.
degrees
personally.
of goodness. We're talking philosophy here.
Yeah.
There are degrees of the good, and we got to go
Well,
for
as one of my former colleagues at the Snohomish County Solid Waste Management Department said, recycling in itself is not a virtue, only if there's a market for it. Same thing with a compostable container.
But we're moving the needle, and that's what we need to do.
You know, I went golfing in Harbor Creek a little while back, and I noticed the amount of bottles, cans, filled. Some of them were dumped near the... And then a little longer after that, I went golfing in New York. And no bottles, not one. Cleaner in hell, nothing.
They have a
And I
bottle,
asked the guy, they have a deposit.
makes a big difference.
People go around, grab all the bottles, grab all the cans, wherever they are, they grab them, and they take them to some kind of something, and they get 5 cents a piece, not one. And I could imagine if there were bottles at Roger Young or Bayview, and I said 10 cents a bottle, come and get them, you wouldn't have to worry about cleaning that park up.
I
But
don't
that's
think
for another day, perhaps.
people in Pennsylvania don't like to be told what to do.
No, either do food vendors. But we can start. There's always a beginning. always a beginning. It just has to originate from an idea. And that's why you guys are here.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
You're quite welcome. Call me anytime.
Okay, thanks, Dad.
Still like to see the whole list of places it
I will
goes.
get you that. I will give it to her, and then she can give it to you all.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
Thank you.
It's common knowledge. You have the right to it. So I'll give
How
you-
much, do you always charge the same, or it depends?
Depending upon where it goes, bandwagon in the city is usually $100 cheaper than outside the city. And depending upon how far it goes outside the city, I'll add a gas surcharge to it. And then depending upon how many extra days they use, I charge a fee for their extra days. So it can fluctuate. And nobody says, without getting the bandwagon, they gotta get a 20 by 40 tent, that can cost you $2,000. So if I'm only charging you $800, you're doing pretty good. And they all agree with that. So, but yeah, I'll give you the list and then you do what you want. I think we probably about $30,000 worth of bandwagons this year. Money goes into general fund. It's kind of repetitious every year, same way. All right?
Okay.
Free to go?
Yeah.
Okay. You have a good day.
You too, thanks.
So, number 5, thanks for pushing us on that, Jackie. We'll get her moving. And thank you, Aaron, for helping me. 'Cause
Yeah, I will.
I don't do things good alone. So, do we still have much to talk about with no? Okay. Is there anybody who feels there's an issue with bringing up the Marcellus Shale, or are we good now that the mayor's decided not to?
I'm not going to lie, I'm not familiar with what this is. I know the email went out, but I was,
All right, so there's this conference here that Jenny alluded to.
yeah.
And the mayor was going to speak, as he did last year. He got letters from a number of people saying, we don't think this looks good. It doesn't seem to go with your climate action. I'm just riffing real quick on this, and I know you two had some interactions, but one of the people who sent a letter sent several of us a copy of what the mayor sent back saying, I've already canceled my appearance.
Okay.
Was there anything else we were going to talk about related?
I guess so this is a pro Marcellus Shale, is that what
Super
this
pro.
is? Okay.
Super pro.
Which is weird.
That's
that
what I was going to ask, too.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with it, yeah, 'cause-
Right.
which is weird they would have it up here, because I think that we really don't have Marcellus Shale. I think we have the Utica Shale, which is just
Right.
too low too deep to actually be economically viable at this time.
They've had proposed fracking sites in Erie County before.
Well, yeah, I know there's some, but it's,
There is one.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was more than one, but I don't know how many.
But most of it's, yeah, most of the shell's too deep to, it falls into the Utica shell, which is deeper than the Marcellus.
It's still well funded. That's the name of the program, but it's all the gas. They represent all the gas.
Okay.
It's a lobbying, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a documentary that came out a couple of years ago on fracking in Pennsylvania. I think it was Pennsylvania. And it was Marcellus Shale Company was the main company that they were doing the documentary on. Yeah,
All sunshine and rainbows and,
yeah.
okay.
But if you take a look at the link, look at the link that I provided for you in the email that I sent out with the agenda, and then the Yale study that actually Jenny provided, it gives you a little bit more context. But what I think Freda is talking about is that the city, the administration has really been a great supporter of the very things that this board and many other people who support environmental concerns and climate change priorities, they've been in support of that. And so much work has been done and so much support has been given by the administration, by the mayor over the last 5 years, 6 years almost.
Or this group wouldn't exist.
Right, including the creation of the EAC, that it was what some felt counterproductive to be established or participating in this particular event.
But it was Mayor Schember that wanted to see the form, so.
Yes, and so Jenny has explained to me that this conference came to Pittsburgh, I believe, last year and was met with great protest and basically booed out of the city.
And it was moved out this year too. It was scheduled to be there, but then they turned them away.
Yeah, so, yes, so we are grateful, very grateful that Mayor Schember has decided not to participate in this convention. And I think, like Jenny said, that I imagine that we may want to thank the mayor if you wanted to possibly write a letter from the EAC, just acknowledging that he made that decision. So,
I would make a motion that we put in our minutes, the council expresses gratitude to the mayor.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
I second.
yep, that's a good idea.
And also, when we were talking about the local climate action plan, Aaron, you were saying how you want action, you want to see some action. Like Jenny, when she spoke, named 3 actions you could do right now. One was thanking the mayor. The other one was thanking Kathy Shaw for reaching out to her as an advocate for the water refill stations. And then the third was reaching out to Jasmine Flores and letting her know as well. I mean, so like Jackie said, just because the local climate action plan isn't completed, there's still small action steps the EAC can be doing every month,
Right.
which I know you are.
Well, I'm going to be trying to meet with council this month, so I can look at those 2 things. And Jackie, Kathy and I have both been advocating for the water bottle filling station for a long time.
Right, but I mean, it's still.
Right.
it's showing your,
Yeah, no, people like to be recognized.
it's showing your
Right.
showing the that you're acknowledging it in the involvement of the EAC.
So what did she want us to tell Jasmine?
To let her know about the conference and that the mayor is no longer speaking,
Okay, I can do that.
or to make her aware of the conference happening.
Right. Okay, I see everybody's packing up, but I just wanted to do one
I-
more thing.
We have to get out of here, though. So.
Right, just, this is going to take a second. So you're really good at getting the minutes.
Freda, I'm sorry, but Bob had something
Oh, I'm
that
sorry,
he wanted
Bob.
to talk about.
I was going to say, based on the comments that was earlier, that maybe we should also put in the minutes a thank you to Councilwoman Shaw for her efforts on behalf of getting the water refill station installed in Perry Square.
Sure.
Second it.
All those
Bob.
in favor? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay,
And we'll
All
take
right.
that
Bob-
as a vote for both motions.
right.
Okay.
Bob, would you be agreeable to writing on behalf of the EAC an email to Councilperson Schaaf, just to let her know that we,
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay,
that'd be great.
so you're really good at getting the minutes out early. I mean, early, promptly, which is much appreciated. So we meet on the 4th Wednesday. If people have anything that they want to put on the agenda, if they could get it to me by the end of week 2, I will make sure that I get an email to Jackie by the beginning of week 3 to give her plenty of time to get anything for the agenda that's needed. Is that okay?
Yeah, and I think as we started the engines here, we're just getting things in a routine and consistent, and I thank you for, your patience, and, sometimes I'm late, and sometimes I don't read the minutes until I get here, and so, but we're getting in a rhythm, so.
Right.
I've been very busy, and I'm sure Jackie's been busy as well, so.
Right. I'm just trying to get things out to Jackie early enough so that she can get an agenda out.
Yeah, and then we can have more and more productive meetings. I thought this meeting was very productive.
Right. Okay,
We need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
okay, thank you.